The end is near. One Piece is currently in its final saga, and the major revelations and epic events unfolding in the manga are a constant reminder that the Straw Hats' adventure is approaching its conclusion. We know that dangerous challenges await the crew in the near future, like the Great War against the world government and the battle against the Blackbeard Pirates. And while the Mugiwara have certainly grown a lot throughout the series, they still need to level up even more to face these world-changing challenges. This includes Luffy's true form as the Sun God. Want to know exactly how each of them will reach that next level? Stick around until the end of this video, and I'll break down all the possible power-ups for each member of the Straw Hat crew. I've got to say, they just keep getting better and better. Before we start, keep in mind that we post One Piece videos every week here on the channel, so if you're not subscribed yet, I invite you to join the crew by subscribing below and ringing the Skypea bell so you'll always know when the next videos drop. We're kicking off the list with Jinbei. The Knight of the Sea was the latest addition to the crew, and his powers mainly come from the techniques of the fishmen and his haki. Out of all the Straw Hats, Jinbei is probably the closest to reaching his peak, mainly due to his age. Jinbei's first potential power-up could be related to haki. As we saw in his fight against Who's Who, Jinbei is already quite strong with his basic Busoshoku and Kenbunshoku haki, so the next step might be mastering Advanced Armament haki. As we know, Advanced Armament haki allows the user to send their energy into their opponent's body, causing internal damage without even needing to make direct contact. And this ability would pair incredibly well with some of the Fishman karate moves Jinbei already uses. In addition to Advanced Armament, there's even the possibility of Jinbei having Conqueror's haki, as the anime hinted in episode 1012. But with Toei, we always have to take things with a grain of salt. However, I believe the main part of Jinbei's power-up will be the refinement or creation of a new Fishman combat technique, whether through Fishman Jujutsu or Fishman Karate. And there are some pretty cool possibilities here. You remember how in some of his moves, Jinbei can manipulate the water in the air to create shockwaves? He also uses the water in his opponent's body to amplify that effect. Now imagine if, instead of just being an amplifier, the water in the opponent's body became the actual source of impact. And if Jinbei combined this technique with Advanced Armament haki, he could completely obliterate his opponent with internal damage. That would be insanely powerful. Moving on to the next Straw Hat, let's talk about Brook. The crew's skeleton is a veteran pirate with skills in swordsmanship, music, and soul manipulation. While we can't completely rule out the possibility of Brook developing haki, it seems a bit unlikely. So let's focus on what I believe will be the main focus of his power-up, his Devil Fruit. After the time skip, we saw that Brook became able to project his soul outside of his body, freeze opponents with the cold of the underworld, and even create a really cool stand that took down the homies in Whole Cake Island. In a final power-up for Brook, we can imagine an awakening of his Devil Fruit that unites all of his abilities. Taking his soul manipulation and connection to the underworld to the next level, Brook could bring the world of the dead to the surface. I'm talking about area-wide freezing, summoning souls from the afterlife, and controlling them in battle through his music. In addition, referencing Thriller Bark, where it said that shadows are a reflection of the soul, Brook could absorb these summoned souls to strengthen his own body or amplify his giant soul projection. In this case, the title Soul King would take on even more meaning, as Brook would truly become a king of souls. Now let's talk about the crew's cyborg, Frankie. Frankie's current powers are all thanks to his engineering skills. The first potential power-up for him would be the development of haki, especially armament haki. The hardening and ability to fight Logia users would be very useful, but Oda might not go in that direction. Frankie's most significant power-up is likely to come from his body modifications. During the Egghead arc, Frankie was exposed to several of Vegapunk's inventions, which could serve as inspiration to transform his body into the ultimate battle Frankie. Some upgrades he could make include enhancing his lasers, like those of the new pacifistas, and adopting the bubble shield, said to be Vegapunk's ultimate defense mechanism. Another useful addition would be the bubble gun. Not only are the bubbles highly durable, but they also have sea stone incorporated and were able to neutralize none other than the Seraphim. But Frankie's biggest upgrade might be incorporating Vegapunk's gloves, which can interact with light, turning the intangible into something tangible, thus removing Frankie's need for armament haki altogether. And aside from modifications to Frankie himself, itself, we can't forget about the Frankie Shogun, which could also receive some upgrades. If you think the timing for these upgrades has already passed, let me remind you of a detail from chapter 1093. A mysterious package from Vegapunk was taken aboard the Thousand Sunny. That will definitely come into play in the future. Next up is Nico Robin. Robin's fighting style is 100% based on her devil fruit abilities. Even though she received some excellent power-ups in Onigashima, she still has room to grow. A key power-up which could also address the main weakness of the Hana no Mi would be Armament Haki. For Robin, who fights by creating extra limbs and takes any damage inflicted on them, having Armament Haki as a coating would be incredibly useful, acting like armor. Beyond protection, Busoshoku would also add a significant power boost to her attacks and allow her to fight Logia users. Another possibility for our mysterious archaeologist is the awakening of her devil fruit. Robin could create numerous clones, both normal and giant, or even a massive version where her original body is inside, similar to a Titan. And if we combine these abilities with Armament Haki and her Fishman Karate, which we saw she learned during the time skip and used to defeat Black Maria, Robin could level up significantly. Now let's talk about the Cruise Doctor, Tony Chopper. His primary abilities revolve around his devil fruit powers and his drug creations, and these two aspects will likely be key to his character's growth. The first potential power-up is the awakening of his devil fruit. Although there's speculation that Monster Point is already an awakened form artificially triggered by the Rumble Balls, we don't have confirmation yet. If it is, we can imagine that a natural awakening would remove the time limits Chopper currently has in that form. And if it's not, we can dream about new transformations. Another power-up option for our reindeer lies in the development of new drugs. Back in chapter 149, Chopper revealed that he had studied his devil fruit to the point of discovering the frequency wave of each Zoan transformation and learned how to manipulate it. This alone puts him close to discovering the lineage factor, but contact with Vegapunk could be the final push he needs. With the ability to manipulate the lineage factor, Chopper would have a wide range of options for medicine and his own power-up. Imagine, for instance, a drug that could temporarily alter his genetic code and mimic the Mink's Sulong form. That would be insane. Considering that he studied the Minks to create the drug he gave to Beppo, this isn't an impossible idea and might just happen. Next up is the crew's cook, Vinsmoke Sanji. As one of the wings of the Pirate King, we can expect his level by the end of the story to be extremely high. Recently, in Onigashima, Sanji gained the theme of Science Warrior. He awakened his Germa genes and gained new abilities like super speed, strength, and enhanced durability. These genetic modifications will undoubtedly be one of the focal points of his future power-ups. Sanji will learn to control and fully unleash their potential, leading to improvements in his existing abilities and the acquisition of new ones, all while staying true to his personality. But that's not all. If the genes used to create the Vinsmoke children really do contain Lunarian DNA, as Queen himself hinted, Sanji's full awakening would be even more powerful. His vitality and durability would increase, and he would gain a new level of firepower and control. However, Sanji's growth won't be limited to genetic enhancements. He's bound to master the advanced form of at least one type of Haki. Being one of the most proficient observation Haki users in the series, it would be a natural evolution for him to achieve the advanced form, gaining the ability to see into the future. We can't rule out the development of advanced armament Haki, and even a potential awakening of Conqueror's Haki. After all, he's a prince of a kingdom, and one of the top 4 members of the Pirate King's crew, being the 3rd strongest in the crew, of course. If Sanji does awaken Haoshoku Haki and learns how to use its coding, we might see an evolution of his Ifrit Jambe. By combining the awakened Lunarian gene's hotter flames with Conqueror's Haki coding, Sanji could create black flames, making his black leg nickname quite literal. The 7th Straw Hat on our list is none other than God Usopp. His power-up is one of the most anticipated by fans, mainly because it's tied to his character development. First, let's consider a possible devil fruit. Not for Usopp to eat, but for his Black Kabuto. Just a quick reminder, this Kabuto can take on a plant-like form and is literally capable of consuming things. So, a devil fruit that boosts the power of the Black Kabuto and provides more versatility for Usopp would be quite interesting. As for ammo, it's likely that the giant flora of Elbaf will provide new, more threatening seeds for our sharpshooter. When it comes to Haki, by the end of the story, we can expect Usopp not only to have mastered his observation Haki, but also to have developed the advanced form, allowing him to foresee the future. This ability might even reach an entirely different level if it's confirmed that Usopp unconsciously sees glimpses of a distant future. After all, his lies always come true. This would be an ability similar to Madame Shirley's, but something something Usopp wouldn't even realize he had. Beyond Kenbunshoku, it's also possible that Usopp could develop armament haki, and even conqueror's haki. Usopp has already shown traits of a conqueror: his ambition, leadership skills, and the ability to inspire thousands of followers. So, an awakening wouldn't be too surprising. Plus, there may have been foreshadowing in chapter 1024, where random people collapse, and Usopp claims it was his conqueror's haki. It wasn't true at the time, but since his lies tend to come true, we should take note of this. Lastly, we can't forget Usopp's other combat tools, especially his legendary 10-ton hammer, which might soon get an iconic replacement. Usopp's connection to Elbaf is undeniable, and the Land of the Giants draws heavy inspiration from Norse mythology. Now imagine if, after a period of training with the Giants, gaining physical and spiritual strength, Usopp overcame his fears and became worthy to wield Mjolnir. That would bring him closer to becoming the brave warrior of the sea he's always dreamed of. Moving on to the Romance Dawn trio, let's talk about Nami. Nami is the crew's navigator, and she uses her weather knowledge in combat through the Climatact. Recently, Nami got a huge power-up with the addition of Zeus to her arsenal. Zeus is a homie containing part of Big Mom's soul, making him incredibly powerful. One potential power-up for her would be Observation Haki, which would be helpful in both combat and navigation. Let's not forget that even pre-time skip, there were hints of Nami having an unusual sensitivity, with Vivi commenting that Nami seemed capable of predicting the weather with her own body. This could very well be a manifestation of Kenbunshoku Haki that might be explored in the future. However, the most tangible targets for Nami's power-ups are her Climatact and Zeus. Her time in Egghead and exposure to Vegapunk's inventions could inspire Usopp to upgrade her Climatact. Plus, Zeus's full potential hasn't been realized yet, but once it is, we can expect him to enhance several of Nami's old techniques and help her develop new ones. As we saw in the fight against Ulti, Zeus is incredibly versatile, and with Nami's creativity, that versatility could make her even more formidable. Here we are, finally talking about the man himself, Roronoa Zoro. When it comes to Zoro, there are three key areas for improvement: his swords, haki, and swordsmanship techniques. Let's start with the swords. Recently, in Wano, Zoro acquired the Enma sword. This was a big deal for his power-up, not just because it's incredibly strong, but because it forced Zoro to become stronger in order to wield it. While the Wado Ichimonji will likely never be replaced, the Sandai Kitetsu could easily be swapped out for a higher grade sword, and switching to a more powerful blade might once again push Zoro to evolve. Shodai Kitetsu, I'm looking at you. Here's an interesting tidbit. In SBS 91, when Oda showed a future version of Zoro, it was revealed that he would master 4 and 5 sword styles. So, if Yontoryu happens before the story ends, maybe the Sandai Kitetsu won't be discarded after all. Besides getting a new katana, in the not too distant future, Zoro's blades are expected to turn black, especially Enma, which had its blackening process started by Kozuki Oden, and the Wado Ichimonji, Zoro's oldest sword, which carries the promise he made to Kuina. We still don't know all the criteria for blackening a sword, but it's likely we'll discover them alongside Zoro. When it comes to haki, I think it's safe to say that by the end of the series, Zoro will be proficient in the advanced forms of Busoshoku, Kenbunshoku, and Haoshoku haki, or at least further refine his mastery of Busoshoku and Haoshoku. Lastly, I believe the connection Zoro developed with the underworld in Onigashima is going to play a major role. In case you forgot, Zoro declared himself the King of Hell, had a bizarre encounter with a Reaper, and his blades took on a green, spectral aura. Oda is cooking up something new for Zoro, and we can expect this to elevate his power and expand his range of techniques. He may soon be known not just as the Pirate Hunter, but as the King of Hell. And finally, let's talk about the Captain, Monkey D. Luffy. What will be his next power-up? Luffy is already insanely strong, but he can still grow even more. The first area of improvement is haki. Luffy already possesses the advanced forms of all 3 types, but another skill he could develop is the ability Shanks has, killing the opponent's observation haki. As for his Devil Fruit, Gear 5 has pushed Luffy to his peak, but beyond needing to refine his use of this form, Gear 5 is expected to have a final form that even Joy Boy couldn't reach. You might have noticed that although Gear 5 is the embodiment of the sun god, it has been shown more often in connection with the moon. We know the moon is only a fraction of the sun's light, so if the current Gear 5 transformation is lunar in nature, it's only logical to think that the sun god's fruit also has a solar form, and we can expect it to be even more powerful. It's worth noting that Luffy briefly took on a reddish hue in Gear 5 during the Egghead arc, suggesting that Oda is saving something big for later. The solar form of Gear 5 would be the ultimate transformation, fully unleashing the potential of the Hito no Mi, model Nika. I believe this will lead to Luffy being able to make sunlight itself tangible, the infinite energy that was Vegapunk's dream, in the hands of the sun god Luffy. Now, after all this discussion, I leave you with a question. Which of these power-ups do you think is most likely to happen? Let me know in the comments.